Hi guys, Gary Cadwallader. Wanted to talk to you about composition, and I'm going to start with the easiest way of creating a composition, and that's with something called the rule of thirds. So here I've marked off a piece of paper with two lines, and the idea is that along one of these lines you put your most important element, so your focal point. And I've got an example. This is one that I did a few years ago, and you can see that this figure is lined up along about the 1/3 area. So I have like broken up into 1/3 and then 2/3. So that's like the simplest kind of composition. Another way, I've drawn two vertical lines. If I added two horizontal lines, like a tic-tac-toe, I've got 4 elements. And the idea there is that I can put my focal point on any one of those 4 elements, so that not only would it be offset horizontally, but also vertically. I don't have an example of that, but this comes kind of close, because here I have a focal point along this axis, but I also have another one over here, and I don't have a problem. I'm going to set that there, see if we can get it in focus. I don't have a problem with having multiple focal points. Some people do. I've been criticized for that, but I think it's a silly criticism, because it undermines a ton of art history. People have done all kinds of strange things. But so here we are. We break that into thirds and into thirds this way. And so we have like a focal point here, which would be our lower left. We have another one here, which happens to be the lower right. And that's just the way that goes. Now, looking at this tic-tac-toe idea, we could also look at it another way. Let's take that first line of our tic-tac-toe. If I just put one line there, what we've created is a painting, or an area of the painting that's just from that line up. Okay? So when I'm looking at my composition, here I'll look at this other painting as well. From that third line up, just the top edge, is that an interesting composition just by itself, just as an abstract element? And I think it is, because if I look at that, what I'm seeing is about 2/3 of the composition is this red and green area, and then another third is more of an empty, dark area. Okay? When I look at this painting, again, it's broken up basically into 2/3 and 1/3. So I feel like that's an interesting composition, more interesting than if I simply divided it in half. So when I'm looking at paintings, that's one of the things I'm looking at. Also, I want to look at the bottom edge. So let's say my bottom edge is here. What's going on? Again, we're broken up into, I don't know, that might be breaking it right into half, but at least I find it interesting. Let's look at this other painting. From there down, I think that works. I've got a dark a red, and another dark. So I feel like that breaks that composition up as well. To continue our idea of thirds, I've also got a left and a right edge. So when I look at this right edge, I feel like that's okay. That's divided up in such a way that I find that it's interesting. Over here, I could have done a little better there maybe. Let's look at this one. That edge, it's about 60-40. I'd say that's about 60 this black area, about 40% that way. That's okay, I'm okay with that. Over here, that composition is actually a little more interesting just because of those white spots, which is one of the reasons I added them in. And I'm alright with that too. So that's kind of how we come up with that idea of tic-tac-toe. Of course, when we do that, we've also added some other areas that we need to work on, and that is the corners. And I feel like corners are perhaps the most important area that we have in our painting. And the reason that I think that, let's look at this. I've created 4 corners with arrows coming into the center, and that to me gives me a feeling. Okay, when we talk about how do you create emotions in painting, well, one way is to make something feel constricted. So if I were to create these elements, for instance that one appears to be going off the page rather than in, I could put leaves, whatever kind of design I wanted in here, but make it appear as if it's coming in, and I can make it feel restricted. I can also do the reverse, which makes it feel, I hope, this example, makes it feel like it's expanding or exploding. So when I look at corners, I'm deliberately trying to do something with each one to make them slightly different. So this corner is different from this corner, and that one different from that one. Let's look at this painting here. That corner's kind of bland, but then we have something more interesting over here. And then this corner, actually I kind of like that corner. So I call this external composition, because what I'm talking about is simply how do we break up this rectangle, this horizontally and vertically. How do we break that up? Now if you're working with a shaped canvas, things will be a little bit different, but hopefully you'll start looking at all of these different elements of this rectangle, and using your creativity you can expand that and go into a shaped canvas if you need to. So that's external composition. Now I think, do I have anything? I don't have anything right here. I'm going to talk about what I call internal composition later. An internal composition would be how objects react in terms of depth and how they tie each other together. So for instance, these white elements that I've added, we're trying to create an oval that ties everything together. But we'll talk about that later. So thanks very much. Leave me a like or subscribe. Thank you very much. Bye.